The day after I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on. I remember one thing, I had a very hard moment in that part of my life, but I assure you in that age, I could have put that clown in the first round, but I sold my soul and I'm ashamed of it.
Is it true that you made $170 million from this fight?
I made a lot of money, the most money I've made ever.
60 million households, Jake.
250 million people.
Bro, that is so
It's all downhill
crazy.
from here.
No, for sure.
I peaked.
How do you think the Jake Paul Anthony Joshua fight plays out?
I don't know. I want to make sure. I believe it once I see him in the ring.
If Paul starts his boxing career earlier, could Jake Paul have been a champion?
Alright, so the ending was already written before it even started. Anthony Joshua didn't just knock Jake Paul out, he completely shattered an illusion and made Mike Tyson silently acknowledge he picked money over mayhem. Boxing now looks manufactured in a way it can't recover from. This feels impossible. Let's go back, because understanding how we reached this point means accepting this wasn't actually a fight. It was a betrayal happening in slow motion that finally exploded when a genuine heavyweight met a celebrity and reality snapped back into place.
I'm gonna tell y'all the truth. I told y'all, they made Mike Tyson retract his statement on Twitter. They made him rewrite a post on top of deleting a post. Yeah, I told you that fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul was rigged. I told you that I don't care what Mike Tyson is saying now, he have to do that to secure his money. He's still an investment for future exhibitions.
That ringside shot of Tyson watching Joshua demolish Paul still haunts me, because what I saw wasn't pride or surprise. That was recognition bleeding into regret. The specific kind of regret that climbs your backbone when you watch someone else execute exactly what you got paid to avoid. Every instinct in Tyson's body registered it, and pretending that didn't crush him is just denial. This is where things get messy, because it forces uncomfortable truths. Tyson could have finished Jake Paul at any moment he chose, and everyone in that arena understood it, Jake included. That's what makes this Joshua knockout cut so deep. It exposed that the limitations were always artificial while the threat was always genuine. Once that reality spills out, there's no containing it regardless of how many damage control statements get issued. The second Joshua dropped Paul in round 5, something cracked in the timeline, because suddenly every previous fight got thrown under a microscope, and you could literally sense viewers mentally rewinding to that Tyson match, asking the same dangerous questions simultaneously. How come he didn't do this? Why didn't he pull that trigger? What made this one different? Once those thoughts start spinning, they never stop.
Sit down on a podcast one time and he talked about it. He said, I don't want to do an exhibition against Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
He said, I'm only doing real fights. And of course, I can't get up high in weight, but I'll fight him in a real fight at the weight that I'm at. But Jake Paul, I mean, as of right now, for what he's doing, it's good for what he's doing. But once he fights a real fighter, it's going to be bad.
Everyone keeps labeling this a mismatch, but that's way too simple for what actually happened, because this was revelation. This was physics reclaiming control after years of defying natural law, and Joshua never rushed the process. He stalked it, which makes it absolutely terrifying. When a legitimate fighter moves with that kind of patience, it signals he already knows how this ends, and Jake sensed that certainty closing in on him with every passing round. Then round 6 arrived, like a judgment, and I don't mean just the punch, I mean the implications, because that right hook didn't just shatter bone, it shattered the pretense that this whole experiment could keep masquerading as legitimate boxing. And the moment titanium plates become part of the discussion, all laughter dies immediately, and anyone still chuckling is either disconnected or dishonest. What sends chills down my spine is Eddie Hearn's comment about giving Jake his debut, and AJ delivering his retirement, because that wasn't promotional banter, that was a eulogy, and promoters don't speak with that finality unless they genuinely believe the curtain has dropped. If you think Jake wasn't replaying those words while staring at those hospital ceiling tiles, you're completely missing the mental devastation.
Eddie, I want to follow with you, because when this fight was first announced, you had said something to the effect of this would end Jake Paul's career. After what you saw tonight, do you think that Jake should continue to box, or what do you think the future holds for him?
Yeah, look, I really take my hat off to. I mean, we have to see if it is a broken jaw. Those injuries are very difficult to come back from. But as AJ said, like that last shot would have knocked out a lot of heavyweights. And I know he went down heavy, but you know, he was conscious on the floor. And I thought his game plan, although obviously very negative early on, which it had to be.
Now, going back to Tyson reveals the calculation and his restrained approach while keeping his power in check. This was completely lopsided, destined to be one-sided, but Joshua's destruction creates this brutal side-by-side comparison because one fighter followed the playbook while another incinerated it entirely, and history exclusively remembers one of those decisions, regardless of the payday size. I don't care how many people scream conspiracy because Tyson cracked that door himself when he confessed he doesn't even recall the fight and woke up wondering why he went through with it, because that's not someone speaking from satisfaction. That's someone who realizes he abandoned something sacred at the negotiating table, and that species of regret amplifies over time. It never fades. Let me be crystal clear about this because it's crucial. Joshua didn't need post-fight interviews because his violence spoke volumes and his silence reinforced everything. And when quiet becomes the most powerful voice present, it means the truth is too blatant to manipulate. And every influencer boxer watching just felt their confidence crater whether they'll admit it or not.
Are you in pain?
Yeah, but it's not from like talking.
What does your jaw even feel like right now? It's like someone shoved a baseball in there. 2 titanium plates. Just brutal.
Feels like
4 titanium plates.
4 titanium plates. How many do you have?
Just 1.
That opens up something much darker that nobody wants to examine yet, because it endangers the entire business structure. If one authentic heavyweight can dismantle years of manufactured hype in 6 rounds, then how brittle was this whole ecosystem from day one? If that question makes you squirm, perfect, you should be uncomfortable, because someone is definitely in crisis mode behind closed doors trying to control what this revelation means.
Oh no, I don't remember the fight that much. I kind of blanked out a little. Listen, know what I remember? Coming back from the first round, and then the next day I remember Jake is doing some kind of, I don't know, what was he doing at the ring?
Oh yeah, little bow at the end, he bowed.
And that's the last thing I remember. You know, but the day after the fight, right after the day after, I woke up and told my wife, why did I do that? You know, I don't know. I just don't know what the hell goes on.
What was your take on Jake's punching power when you were in there with him? I can't stop replaying Tyson witnessing that shattered jaw footage, because anatomy doesn't fabricate stories, and promotional campaigns can't debate with fractured bones, and witnessing concrete evidence of what genuine force accomplishes makes you face every instance you deliberately held back, and this situation feels surreal unless the guilt is already consuming him far worse than he's revealing. Here's an explosive thought you can't dismiss. If Tyson is now publicly confessing that financial considerations influenced results, then how many other contests are about to face public scrutiny? Because once trust erodes, it metastasizes rapidly, and boxing has always depended on faith, and that faith is hemorrhaging right now. Something else that haunts me is Joshua's composure throughout the entire affair, because composed fighters represent the greatest danger and the purest honesty, and his tranquility felt like someone implementing a course correction rather than chasing recognition, and corrections don't limit themselves to single targets, they create ripple effects. So consider who might feel vulnerable next.
Just hoping after this Floyd fight, maybe we can have a rematch. He did well, but I want to try it again.
Is that something that you would be interested in terms of righting the wrong and knocking him out?
This story doesn't conclude with knockout footage or press conference sound bites because the aftermath silence feels orchestrated, and when situations go this quiet, this abruptly, it typically signals contracts being renegotiated and narratives being suppressed. And I'm not buying it, not even slightly, because this scenario is still developing and something more sinister is definitely approaching, and when it surfaces, it'll make this knockout seem like the opening warning. What keeps cycling through my thoughts is how predictable all of this feels looking backward, like the sport itself finally exhausted its tolerance for pretending and chose to snap that rubber band back to its natural position, because for years the boundary between entertainment and authentic competition stretched so thin it was practically begging to snap, and Joshua just happened to be positioned there when it finally gave way. I keep contemplating how confidence morphs into arrogance without anyone catching the precise moment it transforms, because that's what destroyed this entire venture, not the ambition, not the financial incentive, but the conviction that reality could be bargained with if you projected enough volume and assembled a massive enough following. There's something profoundly disturbing about witnessing a storyline implode in real time because it reveals how much of our fan consumption relies on trust, and once that trust fractures, you begin questioning everything retroactively, like how many moments you celebrated were authentic versus how many featured carefully cushioned edges protecting predetermined outcomes. Joshua didn't simply win a contest, he reintroduced accountability, and that's the element people haven't fully absorbed yet, because accountability doesn't generate viral content, but it persists and weighs on fighters long after cameras disappear and social media buzz dies down. I cannot shake the contrast between preparation and promotion, because one unfolds in silence while the other requires constant noise to survive, and when they inevitably clash, silence always prevails, not theatrically, not loudly, just definitively, like gravity reminding you it was never impressed by marketing. What genuinely troubles me is how acceptable it became to position real fighters as storyline obstacles, instead of human beings carrying decades of knowledge and accumulated damage in their reflexes, because once you reduce them to narrative devices, you forget they can terminate your evening with one calculated choice. There's also profound melancholy in understanding that even legends aren't exempt from the machine, that even someone like Tyson can get swept into the gravitational pull of spectacle and money, because it demonstrates how dominant this machinery has grown and how difficult escape becomes once you're embedded within it. I don't think people completely understand how exceptional it is to witness a moment that restructures the emotional pecking order of an entire sport, where suddenly the most vocal personalities fall silent and only the quiet professionals retain intact credibility. Every replay of that knockout carries more weight than the previous viewing, not because of the impact itself, but because of its symbolism, a definitive boundary drawn between tiers, a reminder that experience isn't merely accumulated time but absorbed punishment and wisdom earned through suffering. There's bitter irony in how the chase for legitimacy accelerated the destruction of illusion, because pursuing genuine competition means eventually encountering it, and genuine competition remains indifferent to brand management, public relations, or timing convenience. I keep questioning how many fighters witnessed that destruction and experienced contradictory emotions simultaneously: relief that their sport defended itself, and terror that identical scrutiny could target them if they ever miscalculate the distance between confidence and overconfidence. The aftermath carries more significance than the actual fight, because aftermath determines career trajectories, managerial reassessments, matchmaking philosophy shifts, and fan recalibration regarding future promises and their believability. There's also wisdom here about patience, because Joshua never rushed to validate anything. He waited for the opportunity that was always inevitable, and that patience only develops after years of being punished for impatience. What makes this resonate is that it never felt malicious or excessive. It felt precise, which somehow makes it more damaging because there was no chaos to deflect responsibility, just methodical dismantling that left nowhere to assign blame except internally. I believe the sport required this moment even if it resisted it, because without regular reality audits, boxing risks drifting too far toward performance art, and performance art without genuine stakes eventually becomes hollow regardless of production value. There's a silent reckoning unfolding now, not exclusively for one fighter but for an entire philosophy of fight promotion, because audiences might still crave spectacle, but they just remembered how much they value authenticity when it actually appeared. I suspect this will transform how crossover discussions happen moving forward, because crossover suggests mutual respect between disciplines, not one side borrowing credibility without completely earning it. The mental damage might outlive the physical injuries, because once uncertainty penetrates at this level, it doesn't retreat easily, and uncertainty is the one adversary you cannot eliminate through training or financial resources. What resonates most strongly is how rapidly admiration converts to analysis when protection disappears, because the identical audience that invests in the fantasy will dissect it ruthlessly once it collapses, and that reversal is devastating if you're unprepared for it. There's no neat conclusion here, no moral lesson to package everything cleanly, just awareness that something fundamental shifted and hasn't stabilized yet, like geological plates after seismic activity where aftershocks continue arriving. The most disturbing aspect is recognizing this isn't the final act, because once the sport exposes a weakness this clearly, the next moment it breaks through could be even more explosive, even more chaotic, and far less merciful than what we just witnessed.